So some people who've come to the events have asked to know a little bit more about these bracelets. And again, these are one type of bracelet. I have been imprinting other things too, but this is the machine I use. I use a Spooky 2 Gen X Pro. There's other machines that would do similarly, but this is the one that I use. And I would put the bands in this remote, and then it runs this frequency to program them for abundance. And more specifically, it's following the David Holiday abundance correction and balance. And if we go through the notes, it says on note 6, this preset looks to provide an abundance of love, financials, attraction, and knowledge, whilst removing fear, loneliness, anxiety, negative emotions, and paranoia. And it was initially what's the word? David Halliday, who came up with this frequency set, he doused them. So he connected it with his all is whatever and got that these were the right frequencies to attract that in. So you'll have to sort for yourself. And there's a few other frequencies and in the notes that he recommends running people through. And so I just included all that in order for the program to run. And so what happens when I'm actually running the program is I'll go, because I already do have it set up somewhere, and I would just take this, I'd go into control, I'll overwrite, I think this is generator 3. It's fine if it's the other one. Yeah, because this is where I was running the Schumann resonance. And then I would put bands in here. So I'll put one in. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. I'll put a band in, and the hologram the hologram captures whatever frequency is getting pushed to it. So over here on the screen is all the frequencies it's going to run through. And you can see it's repeating frequencies. That's intentional. It keeps repeating it, and they call it like a hammer hitting a nail until it really drives it in. And then you see estimated total runtime. For this entire thing, it's actually very fast. It only takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I let it run for about 9, 10 hours. I figure why not have it run more? It's kind of one of these ideas of the more the merrier. It's not going to hurt anything. It can only help the frequencies really get stuck even more strongly in the hologram. So that's what's going on. Now, to explain it a little bit more and what else this machine's capable of, it's running right now. Again, this has already been programmed, but why not just do it again? And what's going on, if you're familiar at all, like, I mean, everything is frequency, right? But the idea came from Royal Rife. He was around, I think, the 1900s, maybe 1800s. I'm not the person to talk to about history, but Royal Rife had this recognition that, we are humans and we all are vibrating at frequencies all the time and emitting frequencies. And then what happens when we get ill in any way? It's kind of like there's something wrong with the frequency. So then we have two options. Now, if and then we have two options. One option is we set healthy frequencies to uplift the body, and there's a whole range of programs. There's all kinds of programs in here. If I get rid of abundance and allow the whole database to be available, there's just countless frequencies based on the kind of illness that you have and what you're trying to heal. And then there's kind of options. One is entrainment, and one is to kill the pathogen or the virus based on what's going on. The biggest problem, the biggest slowdown with this loading is the computer I've got. This is a very cheap computer that's just designed only to run this. And so I could upgrade, but it's generally working, and I don't have a problem with it moving a little bit slow. Does impede with actual demonstration. But there's all kinds of frequencies listed here. And so it might say for ear infection, use these frequencies. And for the most part, a lot of these have been proven, or I guess you could say different laboratories or different scientists have studied the frequency ranges and said, okay, these frequencies seem to work for this thing. And of course, the abundance frequencies is a little bit more on the intuitive side. He used dowsing, but for the most part, it actually is based off what people have studied and seen results with. And then there's even different categories. So I'll clear and see if that maybe helps it. Okay, cool. So this shows it all now. So you can see like abdominal cramps is this, and then it even has the anything from the CAFL means it's a certain group that studied it. RUSS means there was some Russian group that studied it. And you can go through and see all these different frequencies, and you can even load up a whole bunch for a certain illness that you have, and it'll probably be in here. There's all kinds of autoimmune things, there's things for peptides. It gets pretty thorough. And so, of course, the idea is that based on whether you're trying to heal, you might do in training, and that would be a certain type of wave, probably like a sine wave. But sometimes if it's this pathogen, if it's this viral thing, you might actually want to break the cell wall of the pathogen or that whatever the barrier is. And for that, it might be a different type of wave that gets sent as well as the frequency. So there's the frequency itself, and then there's the wave at which it gets sent. And so even within here, there's different presets that are even like more fantastic in terms of ways that you can deal with things. So there's presets for healing, which is actually like healing and regeneration, and there's going to be this whole set of protocols it runs through. You can see the runtime is going to be about 4 hours. It, there's going to be DNA stuff. There's stuff for well, even the COVID stuff that was happening. Then the and then there's just like the shell empty preset. So let's and there's different ways of healing too. You can heal remotely, you can heal with contact, you can heal with a PMF coil or a cold laser or audio. There's all these different ways of even healing. And so let's say we go to remote. That's what we're using here is the remote. And if I wasn't imprinting, I'll pull this in a second. I could actually take a fingernail and put it in here, and that's what they recommend using. Take a fingernail, put it in like a paper sticker. So let me just show you that real quick. So I would take this fingernail, I'd put it in here. I would I would label it and say my initials and then the date, and then I would put it inside. I would open this up and put it inside here, and then have it run whatever remote things I was trying to do. And the idea is that there's DNA within the fingernail. And when we're through the concept of entrainment and quantum healing, that we're in there's no such thing as real space and time. So if healing happens to one DNA particle, it's going to actually help the entire person. Then it can go inside the remote and it can begin to heal somebody. And there's even like a whole detox protocol that takes maybe 14 days. And I may walk people through that at some point and say, hey, volunteer your fingernail if you want. I know it might seem like voodoo, but if you want to try getting detox at a distance, maybe that's your jam. So anyhow, that's the nutshell of how it works. But yeah, we could. So there's all these different protocols in here. There's different programs. Eventually, some people get pretty into it and make their own. So like, here's all these different wavelengths and waveforms. And if you even go again, I'm not as versed in all this, but there's all these different waveforms somebody can geek out with and say, okay, I want to kill the frequency, so I'm going to do one of these waves that does that, where sine wave is going to be a little bit more gentle, and then there's waves in between. And so I don't do most of that. I just go with the presets. I go with what seems to work. Again, this entrainment thing, this imprinted thing is a small piece of the whole range of possibilities that this machine can do. And especially if somebody has more dire illnesses, it can be very useful over time to help them with healing. And there's even like a machine that's a little bit more advanced that does plasma type healing that I don't need for at the moment, fortunately. But yeah, so there's different attachments too. This is the remote. You could connect a PEMF coil, and this would be a non-invasive way of healing something. So I could put it for me. Actually, this is how I learned PEMF was very useful for my knees, and then I got a more powerful one. But initially, I just applied this. I found a knee healing set of frequencies, put it on my knee, and it helped far more than I would have expected. And that let me say, okay, well, what else is out there? And I got something a little bit more powerful to help me with that. And then there's this cold laser, which is helpful for cleaning up the blood and really good for carpal tunnel and things like that, which there's a whole set of frequencies in there for. You can even take a sample of blood or saliva or pus if you have like a very specific thing you're working on, put it in this digitizer. It will analyze the sample for the top 10 frequencies that need to be done for beginning to help eradicate whatever this is within the person. And then it'll start to actually run the right frequencies for the person to begin to heal. There's even wearables. So you can wear this over a certain area, have this attached to actual physical electrodes, and it will entrain a specific body area for healing. So this would be for an elbow, and you maybe even put it on both elbows or an arm or something like that. I have them for the knees and other parts too. Some people would actually hold these and it's going through the whole body. The A very low stimulating electrical current at certain frequencies and at a certain waveform. People have even put this in a bath, in like a foot bath, and then use the frequency to move through the feet and then up through the body. And apparently there's a way of not of doing it without electrocution. I haven't used these, but that's the gist. Again, for the sake of what I'm doing. Oh, and then of course there's tens pads where you could put any item of any area of the body you're trying to heal or to bring back to health. You would put them on in between, sandwich the area that's ill in between that, and then run the frequencies for healing. And this is not the sort of nerve stimulating treatment that I've seen TENS pads used for, where you're trying to like shock something. It's just specifically to run the frequencies through so that the right healing frequencies can be there for what the person needs. So that's the way all of this works. Again, I was just having fun with the experiment of, if people are giving, how do we give back so they're actually getting more than what they even gave? There's the idea of the law of reciprocity, the law of currency, where there is something about flow that allows it to come back to us because what we put out is going to be reflective of what we receive back. And I thought, well, why can't we do that in real time? And why can't the actual giving some of that energy? Of course, these have already been imprinted, and this has been running for a while, so I'll pull it now, and then I can pop that back in there. Why can't the energy of the giving be also picked up by the hologram? Why can't the actual money being offered be picked up by the hologram? And then that be given to the person so that should they choose to wear it, I'm wearing one right now for improving eyesight. But for the person who chooses to wear it, why can't that begin to entrain their aura with what David Holliday was talking about, with love, with attraction, with financials, and some other good things, while also clearing out fear, loneliness, anxiety, and those sorts of things. So that's a high level view of this machine. I am, we could say, a hobbyist at best. I'm good at following instructions and then clicking things and making it work. I'm not the person who knows every technical thing. I used to be that way. It's just not as much the way my mind works now, but I've certainly used it for healing and intend to use it again. But if there are people who are more oriented that way, I'm also happy to collaborate with them and see what magic we can come up with together.